Thank you, council members and committee staff, for allowing me to speak with you today. My name is Zachary Hoffman. This morning, I'm speaking on behalf of the DC Bar and Restaurant Workers Alliance. We are an inclusive, worker-driven platform providing protection, empowerment, advocacy, and tangible services to the bar and restaurant workforce. I serve as the vice president of this organization, and my testimony today will reflect the opinions of my organization and its members. I want to begin today speaking to the overall quality of the Mayor's Office of Nightlife and Culture. It's been our experience that both the director and his staff have served an important and necessary role in our community. We are grateful for their continued support of workers and believe that Director Townsend will allow for a more direct and personal connection to our government, especially when it feels at times that we have little representation to look to. Director Townsend is going far and beyond his mandate to bring together this diverse community, and it is our hope that we will continue to work closely with him and his staff in the future. We believe his new office lives up to the directive to promote efficiencies for the district's after-hours economy by serving as a central point of contact between the DC government, nightlife industry, and district residents. It is, however, our feeling that with the relationship between the Office of Nightlife and Culture and the Nightlife Commission, and specifically with regards to true representation, this committee and its council members should consider exploring key amendments to the Nightlife Commission legislation that created the Office of Nightlife and Commission more specifically. As the Nightlife Commission began to form and come together, it was clear that Monk and this commission would work closely to discover solutions to problems facing the nightlife community in a very general way. It was also been clear that member makeup and subsequently the overall effectiveness of this commission may be lacking a complete picture when discussing its solutions and when making policy recommendations. Through discussions had with bar and restaurant workers throughout the district, the consensus is that the addition of a worker to the Nightlife Commission would greatly benefit the workforce at large. The complexities and nuances of our industry, specifically at the worker level, are vast. To not include a voice on the commission that represents our interests and perspective is to lose out on a vital source of information required to make important and well-informed decisions. DCBRWA wants the Nightlife Commission to have all available voices at the table to better serve the community in which it was designed to support. It is our opinion that in conjunction with Monk and the Council, a series of roundtables should be organized to explore the impact a change like this could make. It is entirely possible other additions to the Commission could be uncovered during a review and dialogue with the industry, leaders, and workforce. We believe having a worker being part of this expansive commission would be in the best interest for the residents of DC and provide a much-needed lens to explore the impacts of its decisions. It's clear from the original legislation that the intent was to form and draft a collection of qualified individuals from unique backgrounds and expertise to best address any and all situations that came before it. Additionally, provide well-thought-out recommendations. We are suggesting only that it is possible more voices at the table may in fact allow the Commission to achieve its goals faster and in a more tangible way. By having a worker, not an advocate for workers, but an actual worker, involved in the conversation regarding any aspect of the bar and restaurant ecosystem, it will undoubtedly gain an important insight into the reality of our industry rather than waste time speculating or only having a certain perspective at the table. The objective we want to achieve is clarity through representation. We all gain when we strive to be inclusive and understanding in all ways that we can be. We're asking for this committee, Director Townsend, the Council, and the Nightlife Commission to come together and begin identifying the gaps in representation on this commission to allow for a dialogue to begin. Given the closeness of the relationship between Monk and the commission itself, we feel this is important. In closing, DCBRWA wants to make one clarifying statement regarding this proposal. It does not serve the workforce or the mandate of the commission to include an advocate instead of an actual worker.
First, I'd like to thank the committee for allowing me to speak today on behalf of the Mayor's Office of Nightlife and Culture. My name is Michael Harrison. I've worked in nightlife venues in DC through my entire adult life. I'm also the acting secretary of the DC Bar and Restaurant Workers Alliance, but I'm testifying today as a public witness. I've attended multiple events that the Monk's office has done, including the quarterly informational sessions and the active shooter training, which I think are incredibly valuable additions that have never really existed for the workforce in the past. That said, I believe that the Commission on Nightlife and Culture still needs to be expanded to include current nightlife employees. I believe that the perspective of nightlife workers should always be considered by the city when dealing with nightlife businesses. Often the city doesn't take into account the realities of working later hours or honestly around alcohol. One quick example would be that when ABRA proposed to have managers' licenses at establishments, it entirely disregarded any semblance of the realities of working in nightlife, such as the fact that there would be safety concerns about having your actual name out there, or if you're working at multiple venues and you needed that license on your purse. Value that the current nightlife, beyond that value that a current nightlife worker would add to the commission, the city recognizing our workforce as a professional workforce is just as important to me. Too often, self-proclaimed advocacy groups misappropriate the manual labor that we do with menial labor. And a seat on the commission would help us dissuade the public of that viewpoint. We're tasked with making sure that we ensure the health, safety, and welfare of our patrons, just like any other licensed professionals in the city. And we honestly do need that representation on the commission, just like any other occupation has with any other boards or commissions that oversee them throughout the city. Thank you.